Hello, friends and fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is El, and today we are going to talk about, well, how should I say it? Splitting planets into thirds, Ascension for beginners, Earth Souls graduation, the three-way split. There's many ways we could talk about it, but basically what I'm trying to get at today is going to be the current circumstances that we find ourselves in on this planet, and just how to navigate it, how to think about it, and you can kind of actually make sense of some of the chaos that we're going through after you understand some of the basics of the Law of One, which I sometimes take for granted and think that everyone mostly understands when maybe they don't. And I'm not going to include many quotes today. If I do, they will just be pulled from my brain, so they won't be perfect quotes. They may just be little snippets of things in my memory that that I'll try to communicate to you. But before we begin, if I could just ask that you hit the like button. I've asked the last couple of times, and it does seem to help, and I really appreciate it. It helps this message get out to more people, as opposed to if you did not, so thank you so much. All right, so where shall we begin? What happened was I was speaking with my loved one the other day, and I, like I said, take for granted sometimes about what some people know and what some people don't. So I'm just going to make it as easy as possible as to understanding the situation that we find ourselves in on this planet, and you can understand how there is sort of two groups of people on this planet striving for one polarity over another, and then there's also a third group which you may consider kind of stuck in between, who's being pulled back and forth between the other two groups. And so where do we find ourselves in this third density planet? Well, this third density planet, in third density, we find ourselves dealing with the choice of how to serve. Should we serve others or should we serve the self? And when I say that, there's a lot of assumptions that people make because when they think, well, when I serve myself, am I being selfish? Am I being a negative polarity? Right? So one thing that you could think of is service to others is like a positive polarity, and service to self is like a negative polarity. And so right now we have a bunch of souls who have all incarnated on Earth. They are seeking to evolve spiritually, and what they're seeking to evolve spiritually towards is towards the next density, the fourth density, the density of love and understanding. And the Creator neither blinks at the dark or the light. The Creator has given us all free will to decide what type of love that we seek to move towards. And that seeking and that moving towards can be either, let's say, love of self, which is the service to self negative polarity, or the service to others positive polarity, which is love of other selves plus the self, right? So the service to others polarity includes both self and others because, we see everyone as, let's say, metaphysical equals. Whereas the service to self entities, the negative entities, the sort of satanic elite, if you will, is another way of putting them. They like to see themselves as, well, yes, I shall serve myself, and all other people should be put into line to serve me. And in fact, they should learn the ways of service to self, and I'm going to teach them the ways of service to self by enslaving them and teaching them the ways of this type of polarity, the negative polarity. And so maybe you can kind of see the push and pull that I'm talking about that we have on the Earth right now with these two types of groups. And I would also suggest that just my assumption, and also based on a lot of the material, most people on Earth are likely striving towards the service to others polarity. And a lot of the conscious channeled material, they also talk about these two paths as the service to others path is basically the path that is. It's the path of truth. It's the path that uses all of the 7 chakras. It doesn't negate the heart. It uses the heart chakra, whereas the service to self path is the path that is not, in that it does actually negate the heart chakra and doesn't use the heart chakra, and it sort of skips the heart chakra in a weird way where they use their free will to then go up into the higher chakras and still kind of manifest a sort of infinity, and they can still progress along the negative path, but they can only go upon the negative path for so long, because they call it sort of the path that is not, because in the, there's 7 densities, and even maybe the 8th, where at the end of 7th you go into the 8th and you kind of start a whole new set, a whole new octave. But the negative path ends in the late 6th density. It's basically what happens is that the Creator allows this free will choice for the negative path to continue on for a certain amount of time until it is like it comes up against a brick wall, and it realizes that, in order for it to make it past the 6th density, the density of unity, it must come to the realization that all entities and everything is one and is one with it, and in order to move on, it must make the switch over to the path that is, to the positive polarity. But fortunately / unfortunately, they get to sort of continue on and use their free will, even in this third density, to try to polarize on that negative path. And so what we have going on this earth right now is most souls are incarnate here, just trying to evolve spiritually, and a majority of them are actually on the service to others path, and they're trying to follow the path, right? To follow the spiritual path of evolution, and once again meet the Creator, right, in the end of the 6th, 7th density, whatever. But you have the negative path, where there is, I would say, a small amount of entities here incarnate on this planet right now who are interested in going down the negative path, the path of service to self. And so their path is love of self, right? Because they're still dealing with love. It's like, even though the third density is the density of choice of how to serve, and the next density is the density of love, we deal with love in a sort of an inverted way. So the service to others path is dealing with love of self plus other selves, whereas the negative entities have like an inverted view of that, and they deal with love of self exclusively. It's like I say, it's kind of an inverted way of love. It's like a distorted way of looking at love, but maybe that just helps you understand why that path is allowed still. It's because they are still dealing with love. It's just an inverted, sort of gross, distorted way of looking at love. It's like a love of self to the extreme, okay? So where should we go next? Well, let's talk about the planet itself. So the planet itself that we are incarnate on is also an entity. And to my understanding, in the Law of One material, they do state that this Earth has sort of already made the choice to evolve or ascend, or whatever you may call it, into the 4th density positive. So all planets in the universe, or at least in our octave, in our experience, get to make that choice. And if the people on it and the planet itself, over many millions of incarnations of having people on it, gets to sort of make that choice of whether it's going to ascend into the 4th density positive or the 4th density negative. And so it's my understanding that we are already sort of, it's like the 4th density positive Earth is already in existence, and that is sort of our next experience as to where we're going to be going. In fact, in the Law of One material, they basically state that because we're already a 4th density planet in a way, that it's almost like we've gotten lost in some sort of time loop situation, where then the people on Earth right now are so disoriented and confused that they state we will be fetched with a little bit of difficulty. It's like we will eventually catch up to the 4th density positive planet, and we will incarnate there and experience that part of experience. But along the way, it's going to be a little bit bumpy, as it's almost like the birth is already started, and we already understand the baby, the next step. But the birth isn't going so well, and it's going to be a little bit of a tumultuous a path to get to the 4th density positive planet. So why is that? Right? It's because you have these two groups of people on Earth who are both trying to, ascend or harvest themselves in either the 4th density positive or the 4th density negative. And so as this 3rd density wags on, you still have these 3rd density entities on the negative path who are trying their very best to enslave the rest of us and to get us to use our free will to allow that enslavement, is the way that I would state it. And so to me, this adds actually a lot of clarity as to where we are in our path right now, right? Like, doesn't it seem a little bit crazy on Earth? I mean, I won't go into many specifics, but do you not see the attempts at enslavement coming our way, either through various sort of psyops and medical things and AI and all of that wonderful catalyst that has come our way, that is offering us that choice to enslave ourselves to this negative elite. And because on the path of the negative path, what they do is it's about control. It's about controlling everything within their realm, controlling themselves, their own feelings, other people. And the higher you go up on that pyramid of service to self negativity, the more that you're also dealing with well, like enslaving the entire planet, right? It's like that's sort of their goal, and so let's talk about that's what we call polarizing. And then the fourth density positive entities, I suppose the rest of us, we aren't so much dealing with control as we are dealing with acceptance. The path of the fourth density, the heart chakra, is one of acceptance, not necessarily one of control. Through acceptance, we maybe learn discipline, but we're mostly learning to accept ourselves and accept others and to love them. And that even comes with, accepting that these fourth density negative entities exist and trying to love them, as difficult as it may be. But as we either accept on the positive path or the negative path tries to control, that is like polarizing. They call that, you're polarizing on the path. In other words, you are spiritually evolving upon either the positive path or the negative path. And I like to add this part in there, okay, because so it's my understanding in the Law of One, the raw material, they state that one only has to be 51% in intention, thought, and action on the service to others path in order to graduate or to ascend from the third density to the fourth. Whereas the negative path has to control everything and their intentions and their thoughts and actions to 95% purity. So even though there's a 51% and a 95% on opposing sides of polarizing for each path, you must understand that they also state that to polarize 51% on service to others path is just as difficult to polarize on the negative path as 95%. So I don't know how you want to think about that. It basically means that both paths are somewhat equally difficult. However, on the service to others path, you don't have to be 100. You don't have to be 100% perfect. You don't have to be Jesus Christ. Okay, you just have to try your best, and with the most, with basically just opening your heart. And as you open your heart, you're naturally going to have better intentions, and with those good intentions, hopefully they manifest in good actions and thoughts. And I would like to frame, even when, like I was saying, if you're actually on the service to others path, you may think sometimes that you're being selfish when you're attempting to serve yourself and to help yourself, but you shouldn't necessarily see it that way all the time. As long as you generally do have good intentions and you see everyone as metaphysical equals, you would know that to serve yourself is also to serve others, and to serve others is also to serve yourself. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. I could come up with lots of things to say, but you try to take care of someone else. But if you don't have energy to take care of yourself, then you're not going to be able to take care of others. Another way you could even think of it as is, what kind of example do you want to be to other people? If you would like to serve other people, would you not want them to take care of themselves and to be healthy and happy and loving? Well, then you need to be happy and healthy and loving, and you need to sometimes take time and serve yourself and do those things. And then, but the idea is that even though you may be, serving yourself, that doesn't mean that you're polarizing on the service to self path. You can still polarize in service to others as you take care of yourself, because the intention lies with, seeing everything and yourself as metaphysical equals, and that you are part of the one as well. And so why shouldn't you serve yourself? But at the same time, you're not doing it at the expense of others, right? The service to self negative path does all of their service at the expense of others and uses others. And so, you're not using others, right? You're trying your best just to be a good person and to take care of yourself and to take care of others. And so I just don't want you to gaslight yourself and get all anxious about thinking every time you try to take care of yourself and you're not going out doing active service to others that you're, being a bad person or you're going to fail on the path. I really don't think that. And I think that I used to think that before. And that was sort of a fault of mine, where I realized later that no, you really do need to just reframe what it means to serve yourself in a positive light. It's another way they've stated it in the material is that, taking care of yourself, you can say how will I go on to serve others in the long run? And yeah, you need to take care of your health, because if you were just to serve others at the expense of your health all the time, well, then you would die a short soon death, whereas if you were to take care of yourself, you would, maybe live a nice long life and have many opportunities to serve others. Okay, so that's really fun, right? So let's talk about the three-way split. So we've obviously now understand that the service to self people are trying to harvest themselves by controlling everything and enslaving others and being an example of how to be service to self. And then you have the service to others people who are trying to serve others and take care of themselves, but just be a good example of how to, see everyone as metaphysical equals and on the service to others path. And then you have everyone in between. And I did a podcast about that 2 podcasts ago. If you wanted to look it up, it's called Third Density Repeaters. And the Law of One talks about this. It's basically, they call it the sinkhole of indifference. And unfortunately, actually, the majority of the planet are these 3D repeaters. They are in the sinkhole of indifference. They get pulled, they obviously, most people have a general love for themselves. They have a general love of others, and to talk to them about serving others probably makes sense to them. However, we have a lot of gadgets and distractions on our planet, whether it be the television or the cell phones and the games and all of these things that just pushes people down away from their heart is a way of thinking about it. When I say service to others, another way of thinking about it is you have like your bottom 3 chakras, because we're in the 3rd density, and so you'll always have the sort of bottom 3 generally activated, let's state, and the goal is to push ourselves up into the heart chakra, into service to others. And so a lot of these cell phones and these gadgets and these distractions and these just things that play on like narcissism and just keeping yourself like in your head instead of getting out there, like all of those types of things, they can be used in a positive way, don't get me wrong, but if you're being realistic with yourself, I don't need to convince you, you'll see it around you. It unfortunately, just a way of thinking about it is it pulls people away from their heart. And so that would be what I would call the sinkhole of indifference, where instead of them really grabbing the baton and entering into service, they just sort of get lost, and it's not like it's a bad thing, right? It's not like you should judge them on that per se, but it is what it is. It's the sinkhole of indifference for a reason. It's like they're not making one choice or the others. They even sometimes will, being on the service to self path and then go on the service to others path and then go on the service to self path and go to the service to others path. And so they're not making that 51% grade of service to others. They're kind of always hanging around the 30% or something like that. And so what does that mean? It means when the ascension happens, when the end of this 3rd density comes, or even just, you don't have to think of it as end of the world type situation, just really when they die in this current experience in their current body, they will sort of walk the steps of light, and I've heard it said like this before, it's like if you walk the steps of light, you walk up these hypothetical steps and you're walking towards the light, okay? And you try to walk up the steps and towards the light as far as you can until the light becomes too bright, it becomes too glaring, and then you stop, okay? And then wherever you stop and you look down at the step, if you're in 3rd density still, well, then you're going to go and repeat 3rd density on another planet somewhere else. And if you are in wherever you stopped, if you are in the 4th density, well, then you shall move on to the 4th density Earth, because like I said before, this Earth is going to be a 4th density positive Earth, to my understanding. And so if walking those steps towards the light, and you can take that, that light of the Creator, the light of love, and it's not too much for you to take, because as you walk towards the light, you have to deal with a lot of your shadow and dealing with the BS of your own self, and you have to be able to love yourself, and some people can't love themselves that purely, and so they may stop on those steps a little earlier. But if you if you've polarized in this 3rd density well enough and you've done your shadow work and you're able to deal with love, love of others and love of yourself in a way that's semi-pure, at least 51% plus, then when you walk towards that light and you stop and you look down and you're in fourth density, as long as you're just past, even just if you're just barely past, right, you can be quite a number of steps forward, or you could just be just barely on the fourth density step. Well, then what's going to happen is you will then move on to the fourth density earth, the fourth density positive earth. Okay, and then what will happen with the negative people? So if those negative entities walk those same sort of steps towards the fourth density negative, well, because this planet is, like I said, is going to be fourth density positive, so then those fourth density negative entities will incarnate on a fourth density negative planet somewhere else in the universe. Okay, so this is how we get our splitting three ways, our three-way split, or splitting the planet into thirds. It's because you have those who will go on with the Earth and move on with it into fourth density positive, and you'll have those people who don't quite make the grade and they go on, and the Creator has infinite patience for them and allows them the time that they need to polarize in their own free will and their own time, and so they will be moved over to another third density planet where they can just try third grade again, right? And then you'll have the negative 4D people who, if this Earth was 4D negative, if it was going to be that, then they would stick with this Earth, but because this planet, to my understanding, has already made that choice to 4D positive, well, now they will be moved off to a 4D negative planet where they will get to play with all the other fourth density negative people that were harvested, or entities that were harvested, and get to continue on with their path. Okay, so that is the general run of things, but of course it's always a little bit more complicated than that, a little more fun than that, so I have a few extra things to add on to this. So when I was trying to explain this to my loved one the other day, she mentioned to me, well, I've heard from, like aunties and people who love me and other spiritual folk that I'm sort of like from a crystal planet, she says. And so I kind of interpret that as she's like a wanderer or a star seed or something like that. So there is like the 7 densities, and so maybe what's happening with their, even though a lot of people on Earth are third density entities and they've come from many planets to this Earth right now because it's in this time of change, and so they're trying to use the catalyst of this planet to hopefully catalyze them to make this choice towards one of the other, polarized towards service to self or service to others. You do also have a lot of entities on this planet who have already made that third grade previously, right? They've already gone through on other planets a third density experience, and they've already graduated or ascended into the 4th, 5th, or 6th density. And you can really just think of it like grades, like when you're going through school is kind of how I like to think of it. So what you would call those people is wanderers, or at least that's what the Law of One likes to call them, is wanderers. So with that, you then have, right, the 4th, 5th, and 6th density entities who look at this third density Earth and they see how confused she is with the people on it, and they have, deep sympathy for the people on this planet who are confused and they're trying to find their way, but they're being led astray by 4th density negative entities trying to enslave them. And so a lot of these wanderers from 4th, 5th, and 6th density see this Earth in pain, and they reach out in service to others. And so what do? They try to incarnate here, and they incarnate behind the veil, and they become third density entities in hopes that they, and they really do just hope this, because even when you incarnate here from a higher density, that might be an ego stroke for you to hear if you think you're one of those people, or some of these people, whatever, you're still going to be just like everyone else, right? So what those entities sort of understand is that they're willing to take the risk of the forgetting. They're willing to risk coming behind the veil into a third density planet again, because they have the faith that they will be able to sort of wake up to themselves and wake up to this confusion and really, polarize themselves in the service to others path. And once they have, then they'll be able to help a lot of the other people on this planet do the same. And so Unfortunately, Ross states in the Law of One that, a lot of your wanders, teachers, and adepts, as much as they try and as much as they have, doing their best on this planet to increase the harvest, in other words, to wake people up to the lessons of love, although they're doing their best, our planet is so dearly confused that many people will still repeat the third density. And so, it's kind of tragic, it's kind of sad, but my friends, that is the ways of free will. And like I already said it before, but it's just worth repeating. I like to think of it as the Creator has infinite patience, and so it allows us as much time as we need to make these choices. But anyways, a lot of people, a lot of entities, they come to this earth, to this third density earth, they risk the forgetting, they come and behind the veil, they forget everything, and they slowly wake up as they grow up, and then they slowly begin to help and teach other people. And, sometimes it doesn't even have to be teaching other people, it doesn't have to be active service like this. It sometimes is even just being an entity of love. Like, everything is vibration, and so, a lot of like sixth density entities, for example, when they incarnate here, they may not actually do active teaching and active service. They might even just hold the vibration of love within them. And as they do that, it's like many, many entities on the earth, all around the earth, holding space, right? Holding a space for love, holding a vibration of love. It assists the earth in its transition from the third density to the fourth density, in hopes that it can be just a little less tumultuous. It can be fetched with a little less inconvenience than it otherwise would be, because like I said before, I know it's weird, it's almost like the Matrix. If you've seen the movie, there is a quote in the Law of One. Like I said, I'm not doing quotes in this podcast, but they do state that we've kind of branched off into some weird time loop where we will be fetched with a little bit of inconvenience. And the reason why we're off in this time loop is because of the mass confusion of all these third density people, repeaters on this planet are not pointing the compass in the same direction. We're just all scattered throughout the spectrum of seeking, and therefore the planet is metaphysically scattered, and it can't make the transition easily. The birth is not going well, right? So more wanders, more teachers, more adepts are trying their best to assist in the delivery of the fourth density positive birth of this next earth. And we keep trying our best. It is what it is. One thing that is worth noting is, because this often will come up in your thinking, whether you've thought it or not, and it's kind of morbid, and I'm sorry to state, but they do state also that all third density life will end for a brief period of time on this planet. So you don't have to, I don't like to think of that too much. It sort of means like there's some type of cataclysms coming, but I wouldn't worry about it in this lifetime, because even though this transition sounds like it's going to happen like in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it could be 100 years, it could be 200 years, 300 years. It wouldn't necessarily be in this lifetime that you would see, the tidal waves or something that basically ends all of third density life on this planet. And this comes, begs the question, well, why does all third density life need to end on the planet for a period of time? And so my understanding is that as the fourth density is born and all the fourth density positive entities are on the new fourth density Earth, they are also beginners in the fourth density, learning about themselves, and they need to learn to shield themselves off from the third density entities. Like, it's almost like, I guess, if you were in the fourth density positive Earth and you're a fourth density entity, and there were also third density people still on Earth trying to make the choice, they would almost, this is just my opinion, but they would almost see you as ghosts, right? Like they would get glimpses of you, and it would infringe on their free will. It would infringe on their free will to think that, either that there's a larger metaphysical aspect to life or there's not. Like, this is part of free will, is you can't just pull someone and show them the truth and be like, aha, see, this is the truth, because that's not giving them the choice, right? The third density is the density of choice. It's just sort of the rules of the third density. So in order to respect the free will of those who have not made the choice, is my understanding that yes, all third density life on the planet third density Earth will end for a period of time. And just while the new fourth density entities learn how to sort of control themselves, control their beings, and just understand their ways and not reveal themselves to third density entities in ways that would infringe on their free will. But once again, I don't seek to instill fear within you. Mostly what is likely to happen is that you will die of some sort of natural causes. And because we are at the time in Earth, to my understanding, where we're sort of going through that harvest, you'll either, maybe get one more incarnation in, a couple more incarnations in. I don't know how close we are to that exact time limit where, third density ends and fourth density is beginning. But I would just suspect that you would likely just die of natural causes. So I don't want to instill fear in you and you thinking that oh man, just looking towards that big doom scenario, because trust me, I've been around the Law of One and all this metaphysical stuff for many years, more than 10, I don't even know, 15 years now, and I've heard so many predictions over and over come and pass, right? Oh, there's the aliens are going to come, or there's the solar flare that's going to happen, or all the tidal waves, or all the earthquakes, and maybe some of those things do happen, and maybe they will, but I just don't think it's something you should dwell on. What you should more so be focused on is attempting to purify your intentions, attempting to enter your heart, also attempting to stay grounded in this experience. You still, in order to make it into the heart chakra, into love and understanding on the positive path, you still need to have your bottom three chakras grounded like a plant, right? We need you to have roots in this experience, and so you still need to do all the basics of life and all the daily chores of living and taking care of yourself, and then at the same time, making your way into the heart, into love, into service to others, into loving yourself and loving others, and basically just doing your best. And you don't want to go lose your roots and fly off into the ethers, right? Because that is very tempting for a lot of people. They want to, just deal with love, and then they get ungrounded, and they can kind of fly off into the ethers, and kind of enters a little bit of psychosis. And I wish, my friend, for you to be healthy, a healthy, loving being, and that requires you to be grounded in this experience and not thinking of necessarily the end of the world, just doing your best to do the daily chores, take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of the job and the living and just the basics of your life, so that you can have that energy to enter your heart and to love others and to serve others in a pure and more steady manner. Okay, so I think that mostly covers a lot of the basics, and that is mostly what I would like to communicate today. So I really hope that you enjoyed listening. I hope it serves you well. I'm sure I missed a few finer points, and I may have even confused you a little bit. And if so, feel free to leave me a comment, and I can try to clarify anything in the comments. I read every comment. Please, once again, if you haven't hit the like button, it really does help. I would appreciate it. Subscribe if you would like to hear more of this in the future. Maybe even share it around with your friends. I need sustenance for myself as well. I'm getting so close to the 3,000 hours watched per year where I might be able to monetize the channel, and it's not why I do this. I do this to just freely give, and so I'm out here just attempting to, assuming I maybe am a wander, maybe not, who knows. I do kind of think that I am, and I'm trying my best to just freely give and to assist people in ways that I find helpful, and attempting to have that light flow through me. And it's not easy, my friends. It's not easy to do this on a weekly basis. It takes a lot of effort. And so, if you do appreciate my efforts in this, I would also appreciate it if you jumped on my Patreon, shoot me a one-time PayPal. I'm human. I need to eat. I need to pay rent, right? I need to do all of those things. And so for all of you that do that, I really appreciate it. If you don't have abundance to share, don't worry. I am not I don't hold other people. I wouldn't think of any less of you if you couldn't, but I would do really appreciate it if you jump on my Patreon, something like that. It helps with, doing this in a more long form format so that I can keep serving and keep assisting in these ways. And so you can do that at theoneinfinitecreator.com and just scroll down a little bit till you see the support section, and there's a couple of links for that. Other than that, my friends, I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I love you guys. And until next week, we shall speak again. Okay, goodbye.